Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in to another video. What happens when you leave everything behind, searching for something new, only to find yourself lost in an unfamiliar world? Wolves by Jeon Sung-tae is a haunting short story collection that takes us across borders, from Mongolia to North Korea to the rural landscapes of South Korea, exploring themes of exile, identity, capitalism, and survival. This book is an absolute must-read for anyone interested in Korean literature. So today's book is Wolves, written by Jeon Sung-tae, translated by Sora Kim-Russell. It's a multi-award-winning collection of short stories. It was originally published in Korean in 2009. The English translation was published by White Pine Press in 2017. And usually, White Pine have an entire series of translated Korean poetry collections, and they don't often do fiction. So this is a rare White Pine a publication that isn't poetry. I'm not sure how that came about, and honestly, I don't know if they've done any other non-fiction, any other fiction works either. But anyway, very happy that it was published. So Jeon Sung-tae was born in Jeollanam-do, 1969. He studied creative writing at university in Chungang University, where he also joined a literary circle called the Marching Trumpet. He made his literary debut in 1994 with a story called Chicken Beating, which won the Silchon Munhak New Writers Award. Took him a few years to get his first collection published. So 2000 saw the publication of the Incense Burial Collection. That would also win a literary award. In 2005, he spent several months living in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and his time there inspired him to write this collection of stories. So Wolves was hugely acclaimed when it was published. It won 3 of the big Korean literary awards. It won the 6th Chaeman Shik Literary Award, the 11th Muyong Literary Award, and he also won the coveted Writer of the Year Award in 2010. So, and that was really all for this collection. And one of Chon's contemporaries, novelist, translator, and short story writer Chris Lee, described the collection as a window into a little-known world with beautifully rendered, nuanced language. So what is the little-known world this collection gives readers an insight into? So, I've reviewed on the channel elsewhere. You can find novels and short stories by Korean writers set in China, Vietnam, and Germany. But this is the first and I think only Korean book so far that I've read that's set in Mongolia. And 6 of the 10 stories here are set in Mongolia. Some are set in the capital city of Ulaanbaatar, and some are set in the sort of vast plains of the country. There's a story set in North Korea near the Tumen River, and 3 more stories set in South Korea in various locations. I'll come back to those in a minute. So the stories in Mongolia were inspired by the time that John spent there, and are generally very fascinating stories from a variety of perspectives. So what type of characters are we introduced to in the Mongolian stories? So some of the stories are from the viewpoint of Korean immigrants who've gone to Mongolia for a variety of reasons. So in Chinese fireworks, we have a Korean pastor who gets involved with the desperate lives of some Mongolian street kids. In Korean Soldier, we meet a Korean university professor who's on a sabbatical in the Mongolian capital in the hope of getting some writing done. But he has a series of alienating and challenging encounters. Second Waltz is a story about a Korean writer traveling across the country with a group of Mongolian poets. It's also a story of unrequited love and infatuation. And there's a lot of different things happening in these stories, different strands, but they're all linked. So these stories I've just mentioned all feature Koreans who've gone to Mongolia following its transition from a socialist society to a more capitalist-based society. And they've all gone there expecting something and find themselves challenged by what they find there. There's also a strong North Korean element to the collection. So how does Sean incorporate the North into these stories? So two of the stories revolve around a North Korean restaurant called the Magnolia in Ulaanbaatar. The first story in the collection, called The Magnolia, introduces a young South Korean man who is a tour guide in Mongolia for groups of Korean businessmen. And he always takes them to this North Korean restaurant because he knows they will be fascinated by it. It's a very interesting story about a kind of culture clash of sorts. We meet various Koreans, so a group of Christians, drunk businessmen, the young man's uncle, and we see how they have different expectations and different ways of thinking about this restaurant. We also meet the North Korean and Mongolian staff and see something of how they think about their experience. And in a second story called Southern Plants, a South Korean man who is a bit of a regular at the restaurant and also a bit of a good for nothing kind of guy, is asked to help one of the North Korean waitresses to defect. But he resents this burden of being asked to do something like this, something possibly honorable, to help this person out of a difficult situation. But maybe everything is not as he first thinks it is. So both of these are fascinating, partly because they're not stories we often hear, but they're also just very interesting stories in their own right. And then, like I said, there's some stories that are set in South Korea. So the stories set in South Korea are sort of tragic comic stories. The one of them is Has Anyone Seen My Shoes? Is set in a village on Chongsan Island. Tells the story of a drunk old man who loses his shoes one night and the unintended consequences that result. Very funny, also very sad. Also, partly a satire of Korean media, as well as lampooning, village life. Another story is called Kids Need Money Too. And like this also also revolves around an eclectic cast of characters. So we have kids, con men, chancers, and various other sort of unusual characters. And like many of the stories here, it's about how one decision or action can have unintended results. We often see characters in these stories who see their lives spiral into disaster from a seemingly small mistake or error or bad decision. What about the title story? So, Wolves might be the most formally daring story. So, it's told from a variety of perspectives and characters. So there's a male character, and then there's a female character. There's a Korean character, a Mongolian character. We see from their different perspectives. Fantastic piece of work, moving, atmospheric, and epic in scope. Weaves together lots of different strands to make something tragic that resonated with me for a long time. Overall, fantastic collection. I highly recommend it. And if you love stories that take you to unexpected places, if you're interested in the Korean diaspora and cross-cultural experiences, or if you just enjoy stories that blend satire, tragedy, and social commentary, then this is absolutely a book that you should pick up. It's a thought-provoking, beautifully written collection that takes us into some hidden corners of the world. Absolutely worth picking up. So, what do you think? Have you read Wolves or any other short stories that explore identity, displacement, and cross-cultural encounters? Please leave a comment if you have. Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more deep dives into global literature, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.